I'll ask you about the schedule. The schedule, you touched on it a little bit earlier. Some conferences play this amount of conference games. Some play, 8, 9, all these different things.
Right.
What would you like to see the makeup of the schedule be for all college football?
Yeah, I just think it should be consistent. I do think that, having 9 games is great. I think that, the quality wins will be important as we move into the playoff era. I think that, certain wins are going to, mean a lot more. It won't look like, March Madness when it comes to that. But, having quality wins will be important, not just one or the number of wins or losses. Because I think, to your point now, you can put your schedule in such a way that you can set it up so that you get a certain amount of wins. And at the end of the year, that looks a lot better than maybe a 1 or 2 loss team, but they may be better in the end. And I think the idea is to get the best teams into the playoffs. And so, having a 9-game conference schedule, or maybe even down the road a 10-game conference schedule, is a great thing as long as it's consistent across the board. I think that's what's critical.
Divisions, what do you think? Yay or nay within conferences?
Well, I think having if you go away from divisions, you have to really make sure that it's equitable across the board.
Sure.
How do you do that? Do you use the historical data, or do you try to find trends based off of how a team is doing, what they've done the last couple of years? Yeah. I think that's the trick. We certainly know in the NFL how they do it.
Well, I was going to say, I'm a big believer that we should build schedules not way out into the future,
right,
but based on finishes previous years,
yep,
even non-conference schedules.
Yep.
There'd be ways to get much more valuable product in the non-conference if we built those based on previous year's finishes, and within conferences as well.
Agreed.
And I know you guys would bear the brunt of this because you're constantly one of the best teams in the Big Ten, if not the best team in the Big Ten. If you're one of the best, you should play the toughest schedule, right? I know that would be tougher on you guys, but it would be the same for Georgia or Alabama or Michigan. Those teams should be having to play the tougher ends of the schedules, just like the Chiefs are, because they win the division, or so on and so forth.
I mean, I hear what you're saying. I think that we should look at them in at least 2-year windows, not, like you said, down the road, because things change. Staffs change, trends change, recruiting changes things. So I think we need to continually look at that. But I think there's still going to be rivalries in place, protected opponents, where you're going to have certain rivals that you play, and then a rotating schedule. And I think that's healthy for the conference. But yeah, I think you got to look at all those types of things and figure out, not exactly so much like, okay, if you win, do you play the toughest schedule the next year? But I also think you have to look historically over a certain amount of years. If a team is in, category A, B, C, or D, there's a good mixture of those things.
Yeah. These are all things that I feel like are important to discuss as we move into the playoff era, because again, the playoff is totally new. We're building it basically from scratch. So I think that's a fascinating deal. All right, last thing that I'll ask you about, and this one is just more of a fun one. Is there a coach in the country right now that you look at and you're like, I really respect what he's doing. I appreciate what he's doing. It's tough playing against his team. Is there a guy out there?
Oh, yeah, there's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot. I think, like you said, the level of play right now is as high now as it's ever been. But I also think the coaching is that way, too, on both sides of the ball. I think, offensive coordinators are really creative in what they do, but I also think defensive coordinators are really on their stuff. They're making it really, really hard. I don't know what the numbers were. I need to go back and look at it, but it just seems like this past year, defenses were just stronger across the board. Just did a great job of getting lined up and calling their defenses. But there's great coaches out there. I just think about certainly the guys that I know, and in terms of Chip and I look at what Sonny Dykes did this year at TCU. Unbelievable job, taking that team there.
Isn't it fascinating in the transfer era, NIL era? It's like you're going to see teams pop.
That's it.
And more so than ever before.
Yep, exactly right.
I'm hoping Dion can do it at my alma mater.
Well, he's got some good momentum going. No, but there's a lot of great coaches. I think Kalen DeBoer does a great job out of Washington. Yeah. He was at Indiana. Indiana really made a great run there.
We talked about him a few years ago.
Yeah, he's a really good coach. I think Brett's doing a great job at Illinois. They play tough, and He's a really good coach. His guys play well on both sides of the ball. They run the football. I got a lot of respect for him. A lot of respect for all these coaches. I think they do such a great job. But